Welcome. I'm glad you've taken a moment to listen to this story. Snow White by the Brothers Grimm. I'm Richard Reeds. I'm very pleased you've joined me today. This is a story of beauty, envy, and courage, where innocence and cleverness must face the darkest of human hearts. And as we wander into these woods together, you may find yourself wondering, how far would you go to survive? And who can you truly trust? It was the middle of winter, and snowflakes drifted softly like feathers from the sky, when a queen sat at her window, working at her ebony embroidery frame. As she stitched and occasionally gazed out upon the glistening snow, she pricked her finger. 3 drops of blood fell onto the white snow, and she marveled at how vividly red they were against the white. "Oh," she whispered to herself, "that I might have a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the wood of this frame." Not long afterward, she bore a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. She was named Snow White. But joy was short-lived. The queen passed away, and after a year, the king remarried. His new wife was beautiful, but proud and vain, and she could not tolerate being surpassed in beauty by anyone. The queen possessed a magic looking-glass, and she would stand before it and ask, "Looking glass upon the wall, who is fairest of us all?" And the mirror would reply, "You are fairest of them all." Thus she was content, knowing her mirror spoke the truth. Snow White grew more beautiful with each passing year. By the time she was 7, her beauty outshone even the queen. One day the queen asked her mirror once more, "Looking glass upon the wall, who is fairest of us all?" The mirror answered, "Queen, you are full fair, 'tis true, but Snow White fairer is than you." A shock of envy and anger consumed the queen, turning her heart dark and cruel. She summoned a huntsman and ordered him, "Take the child into the forest, that I may never see her again. End her life, and bring me her heart as proof." The huntsman led Snow White deep into the woods, his knife poised. But when he beheld her beauty and innocence, he could not strike. "Run away into the forest, poor child," he whispered, "and do not return." To deceive the queen, he killed a young wild boar instead, offering its heart to her as if it were Snow White's. The queen, satisfied, ate the cooked heart, believing her rival vanquished. Alone in the wild forest, Snow White trembled with fear. Thorn bushes and jagged stones scraped her feet as she ran, yet no beast harmed her. At nightfall, she stumbled upon a tiny house. It was small, yet exquisitely clean and orderly. A table was set with 7 little plates, knives, forks, and cups, and 7 little beds lined the wall, each with a neat quilt. Hungry and thirsty, Snow White tasted a bit from each plate and sipped from each cup, careful not to consume any one portion entirely. Exhausted, she tried each bed in turn until the 7th fit her perfectly. She lay down, surrendered herself to heaven, and fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Soon the owners of the house returned, 7 dwarfs who mined for gold in the mountains. Lighting their candles, they noticed things out of place. "Who has been sitting in my little chair? Who has eaten from my plate? Who has touched my loaf?" And so they cried in astonishment, until the 7th looked upon Snow White sleeping and whispered, "Who is this beautiful child?" The dwarfs were overjoyed and let her sleep undisturbed. When she awoke, startled by their presence, she explained how the queen had sought her life and how the huntsman had spared her. The dwarfs said, "If you will care for our house, cooking, cleaning, sewing, and tending to all things, you may stay with us and lack nothing." Snow White agreed wholeheartedly. Each day she managed the house while the dwarfs mined gold in the mountains, and each night she welcomed them home to a prepared supper. Meanwhile, the queen, convinced Snow White was dead, asked her mirror, "Looking glass upon the wall, who is fairest of us all?" The glass replied, "Queen, thou art of beauty rare, but Snow White living in the glen with the 7 little men is 1,000 times more fair." Enraged, the queen disguised herself as an old peddler woman, crossed the 7 mountains, and offered Snow White fine laces. Entranced by the lace, Snow White let the woman bind her tightly, nearly suffocating her. The dwarfs returned in time to free her, and she survived once more. The queen's envy persisted. She crafted a poisoned comb and again tricked Snow White. Once the comb was removed by the dwarfs, Snow White recovered, learning to beware of strangers. The queen then devised a poisoned apple, beautiful to behold, white with a red blush. She disguised herself as a peasant woman and offered the apple to Snow White. Unable to resist, Snow White bit into the red half and fell as though dead. The queen, triumphant, consulted her mirror. "Looking glass upon the wall, who is fairest of us all?" The mirror now declared the queen fairest, and at last she felt envy's brief relief. The dwarfs, discovering Snow White's lifeless form, mourned her, but unable to bury her in the dark earth, they placed her in a glass coffin. For a long time she lay there, appearing merely asleep, her beauty untouched by death. One day, a prince passing through the forest saw Snow White in her coffin. Enchanted, he requested the dwarfs to let him take it, promising them honor and care. As they carried her, the poisoned piece of apple dislodged, and Snow White awoke. Joyfully the prince proposed, and she accepted, returning with him to his father's castle for a splendid wedding. The wicked queen, attending the celebration, asked her mirror once more, "Looking glass upon the wall, who is fairest of us all?" The mirror replied, "O queen, although you are of beauty rare, the young bride is 1,000 times more fair." Enraged beyond reason, she was forced to wear red-hot iron shoes, dancing until she fell dead, and peace was finally restored. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Snow White's trials and triumphs. Sometimes, beauty and virtue may seem to invite envy and danger, yet patience, courage, and a kind heart can see us safely through. I am Richard Reeds, and perhaps we will meet again when a new story is ready to be told.